Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris Milton and Ben here for Outer Rim Transmission. This is episode 142. This episode, we're talking all about the Bad Batch and Battlefront 2 Classic. Yeah, who knew about that coming for an announcement this week? So we're going to get into a lot of Star Wars goodness this week. Ben, I know you had something you wanted to mention right off the top of the show.
Oh yeah, so to hop right into like kind of our weekend Star Wars, I for any of our media pop culture consuming fans, you would have seen the new Avatar: The Last Airbender series came out on Netflix on Thursday, and just like a mini little review on it. Hey, it's not of course the original animated series, and it's just like Star Wars. Nothing will ever beat the original, but for this series, for what it is, it's good. It's a fun, nice series. The episodes are all 45 plus minutes long, so it's nice. I'm halfway through the series, but the reason I bring this up is because one of our, I would say, fan favorite side characters from the Mandoverse is making a prominent appearance. He's in every episode of Avatar pretty much so far, and that is Paul Sung Lee, who is Carson Teva in the Mandoverse. And for the Avatar show, he's Uncle Iroh. And for any Avatar fan out there, Uncle Iroh is like one of the main, most critical characters of the Avatar series because he's like guiding Prince Zuko, and he's kind of like, the cool thing with his character is he's like a good, even though he's on the bad guy, even though he's on the Fire Nation side, he's kind of like the moral compass character on the bad side. And the good thing is with Paul Sung Lee's performance, like he really kind of portrays that really well in this series. Like it fits. I think it does well for the original Uncle Iroh character from the Avatar animated show. And it's cool because you really like see him portray that kind of like moral compass to Prince Zuko, who's like the lead villain. Even though he's on the bad side, like you still see that. So because he sees more of like the bigger picture of like not just like the Fire Nation versus the other nations, like he's he kind of like just sees kind of like the middle ground, like the gray ground. So it's pretty cool seeing him portray Uncle Iroh. And the cool thing about it is like he must have like watched some of the series like in preparation or something, because like he picked up on some of the like the character, like the comedic timing of the character. He picks up on that really well, because like for example, Chris, you'll have like Prince Zuko, who's like the lead, like I said, villain, and he's pretty much like a young guy in his 20s who wants to prove his dad, who's Fire Lord Ozai. Also, fun fact, anybody who's watched the Avatar series, Mark Hamill played Fire Lord Ozai in the original series. But like Prince Zuko, is just like this like hard-edged villain, like, hey, I want to prove my dad right, blah 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 blah. And then here's Paul Sung Lee's Uncle Iroh, like Zuko's saying like, hey, let's hunt down the Avatar, blah 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 blah. And Uncle Iroh's saying, hold on, we got to stop and like sit down and have tea and rice right now. And like, in all these serious moments, like he's like, whoa, slow it down. Like we'll get to the Avatar eventually, but we gotta hydrate a little.
Man.
Yeah, so it's great seeing him in this series like this. It's definitely like he's definitely a really enjoyable part of the series, and it's a lot of fun. Like I've seen some videos going around on social media this weekend.
Okay.
Like Paul Sung Lee was talking about it. Like when he first got casted for this show, he thought he got casted for like a basketball high school show where he'd be like a coach or something. Yeah, because they had the script so secretive. And he said a month later, he said he got a call back that he got casted as whatever, like Howard or something. And he said, "Wait, I got casted for that basketball show?" And then they called him and said, "No. You're playing like one of the most important characters of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series." So like that's how he ended up actually getting that. And it's just great because, like I said, it's cool. I love seeing Star Wars actors in other things, especially in something like Avatar, which is like such a fan beloved show, and like he's really doing that character justice. And it's great seeing like to me, for like especially for like the hardcore like Avatar fans, like it's great seeing Paul Sung Lee kind of carry this legacy on of Uncle Iroh, because unfortunately the actor who played him died, like,
Mm.
almost, they were about, I think they were in like the third or fourth season and he passed away.
Oh.
So like it's great seeing, like, Paul Sung Lee kind of carry this legacy on of the Uncle Iroh character, and he's doing a very good job with it. So that was kind of my week in Star Wars, just seeing like a Star Wars actor in another really popular medium that other Star Wars actors, as well as Dave Filoni, has even been involved in with the animated series. So it's just cool seeing like Star Wars kind of bleed over into some more like popular franchises.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a huge live action anime craze. Oh, I'm gonna get flamed already. I just said this is an anime. I know that's like, that's like naming Voldemort. He should not be named in Harry Potter. You don't call Avatar an anime. Whatever you do. So yeah, stop the comments. I know I'm correcting myself, everybody, but it looks like okay for me. It looks like anime. I don't know. I've always felt that way, but no, it's cool to see. Yeah, I didn't know if he was going to be a bad guy or a good guy or what his deal was in general, because I've never watched the original series on Nickelodeon. I think it aired or something like that. But yeah, a lot of hype around it. A lot of hype around it. I'm happy that you enjoy it. I'm not sure if I'll check it out. But it is always fun to just see a Star Wars actor pop up in anything, whether it be after they played a role in Star Wars or before they played a role in Star Wars. There's always something special about that.
Oh yeah, it's always like a really nice time getting to see the Star Wars actors being involved in it. And the funny thing was, at first, funny story, I had to pause the first episode of Avatar because when I saw him, I forgot Paul Sung Lee was playing in the show. And when I
Hmm.
saw Uncle Iroh, I was like, man, that guy looks like mega familiar. And I paused it and I like literally got up and stood in the middle of my living room. I looked at the TV. I was like, man, he looks really, 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 really familiar. And I had to look up the cast, and I looked it up and was like, oh dang, that's Carson Teva. Like, I forgot about that. So it's just really cool getting to see him play that character. And like I said, he's doing it in a really, I think, a really good way. He, like I said, he really brings over kind of like that good, kind of like moral compass for the villain side of
Hmm.
things, which can be hard to translate from an animated sense to a live action sense, just because of the way the characters looked, or emote, especially with like animated type characters.
Mm.
So he's done a really good job at it, and I'm excited to see the back half of this season, because I'm going to finish that up sometime this week as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my week in Star Wars.
Excellent, excellent. Milton, I want to bring you into the conversation. When it comes to you and anime and character crossing over in Star Wars, I mean, the thing I know you've gone on and on about is how much you love Star Wars Visions, especially that first season, the duel and
Right.
different things like that. So I don't know if you have any interest in seeing more Star Wars actors in this kind of style of storytelling and whatnot.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. I'd enjoy it no matter what. I mean, I think it depends on what the story is and how they're going to tell it. Whether it's in, anime form, live action, it doesn't matter. Three-way animation, as long as they tell a good story, I'm about it. If they want to pull in Mark Hamill to voice over a character, which we've seen him do before in other animations and
Hmm.
whatnot, it's cool. If I mean, look at Sam Witwer, he's voiced other characters besides character Star Wars and other properties in animation or whatnot. I believe Katie Sackhoff has done the same thing. So
Hmm.
you pull in all these great actors who are not just great live action actors. They do a really good job at voicing because they're so involved with the animation side of Star Wars. So I'm all about it. If they tell a good story, no matter what medium it is, whatever property or IP that they decide to venture out, I will pay attention to it. I mean, Mark Hamill is a perfect example of this guy. Not only has played Luke Skywalker in
Hmm.
Star Wars, he's done various characters in animation, i.e., the Joker, and he's played another iconic character, I think, in voice. Who else did he do?
Well, Milton, remember, even in our good old Arrowverse in the Flash, he kind of played that pseudo Joker metahuman that was kind of like the Joker, even.
yeah, that's the trickster.
Yeah, the trickster. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's played Futurama. He's the guy in Futurama, isn't he?
Yep. He's
Like,
one of the
so,
main
like,
dudes on
yeah.
Futurama.
It was like I'm all about him or any other actor that decides to venture into another property because again, that's what they're paid to do, and they're very talented to do so. But yeah, I think that's always dope if they can translate into that particular realm of entertainment.
Yeah, so we'll keep our ears to the ground. We'll keep our ears peeled on the screens for any incoming shows that might have Star Wars actors. I'm not sure of any off the top of my head. I would love to see a Star Wars actor make the jump into like the Game of Thrones era. Oh wait, they already have. They already have. General Veers, Grand Maester Pycelle himself, was in Game of Thrones pretty heavily actually. But hey, what about
Oh,
House
I
of
didn't
the
realize
Dragon?
that was him.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. I didn't know that until breaking news. I didn't know that until
Just
literally
blew
right
your
now.
mind. I just blew your mind on that. You gotta love when you have
Hmm.
those realizations. But
Yeah. I'm going to have to look up one of his scenes after this show.
yeah. So Julian Glover is the name of that actor. Julian Glover. Yeah.
Hmm.
And as far as me, I don't have anything to report this week, but I'm gonna have a heck of a lot to report next week for my week, and I'll leave it at that. So Milton, I'll throw the ball over to you for if you had anything of note other than watching some awesome Star Wars animation. I don't know.
This week wasn't really much involved with Star Wars except for probably a little bit yesterday, hanging out with the lady friend, and we were playing some video games,
Ah.
and I actually showed her Super Star Wars on Super Nintendo.
Nice.
So, because we were
Classic.
playing Tetris and Frogger on the Super
Game's
Nintendo.
kind of hard, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I was telling her, I was like, yeah, this game, I played this when I was a kid, and, it was really tough. And I said, before you had the cheat codes, you actually had to, like, get the gamer books and walk through it. But I showed her, like, Super Empire a little bit, and I said, could you probably play that? She's like, heck no. Because it's so, like, intensive, you know what I'm saying? So she really enjoyed watching me play that for a short period of time. The day before that, we went to the arcade,
Ah.
and I tried to play Star Wars Arcade, but it was broken again, so I was kind of pissed about that because I wanted to show her what that game was all about because that's my favorite arcade game of all time. Is that Super Star Wars Arcade? I think it was by Way or someone who created it, but yeah, so dope. But that would have been my week if we would have been able to play the game.
Ah. Dang it. We gotta get those people over there to fix that game already. It's been too long. Gotta experience the glory of the Star Wars arcade game.
I agree. Literally, every time I get a chance to get near arcade, that's the first game I'm looking for because that's the only one I like to play.
Oh yeah, such greatness. Well, there you have it. Getting into the show proper, we have some housekeeping as always. So if you're interested in finding this show on YouTube, you can just look up youtube.com/Starrapter. We go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't worry, if you missed the show, you could always watch a replay of it on the channel. And if you are watching this live, please go ahead, leave a live comment, leave a comment after the fact, and you could always download us on your favorite podcast streaming app of your choice, Spotify, Apple, and please on any platform. Please give us a like. Please give us some kind of review to help spread the message that Outer Rim Transmission has a positive Star Wars community where we love to talk about the galaxy far, far away. So we have just one notable release this week, well, other than 3 episodes to talk about, and that was Star Wars issue number 43. Big issue came out. Me and Matthew over at the Star Wars Underworld channel on the Tractor Beam talked all about this episode. It's the episode. It's episode. I get these confused. Issue, Marvel comic issue. We talked about it over there. Luke Skywalker centric Vision Quest, where he's using a green lightsaber for the first time inside a red kyber crystal. It's a very metaphysical kind of experience that Luke goes through between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So we get into all that. I also have my review on the channel for that specific comic. If you want like a quick rundown, 5 minutes or less, I have that on the channel right now. So I think this also came out, this huge news, Ben, came out on Wednesday, I think right after Bad Batch.
Yep.
The Nintendo Direct, they have these little showcases of, oh, these games are coming out. They had their partner showcase. And honestly, I was fast forwarding through this thing because it just uploaded. I'm like, let me like try to see the good stuff in the preview windows. It's like 22 minutes. I don't want to sit through all this. And I seen some Star Wars, and I gotta admit, in the little like preview image as I'm moving my cursor along the timeline, I'm like, oh my gosh, are they announcing a release date for Star Wars Hunters? I got excited. I gotta admit, I got excited. It's like, oh my gosh, I clicked right to that spot. It was like, this looks way old compared to Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh my gosh, this is the original Battlefront, everybody. And yeah, there we go. We have Asper, who is putting together not only Battlefront 2, but Battlefront 1 and 2 in one $30 or $35 package, something like that, for all systems. At first, this was only thought to be on PlayStation and Nintendo, but later on that day, we got the confirmation that every platform is getting this game. And the big selling point in this is the fact that they're bringing live servers to the game. You're going to get 64 multiplayer action across DLC maps, expanded characters like Asajj Ventress and Kit Fisto, a whole bunch of new game modes that weren't in the original game. So much goodness is in this. And I know, Ben, I got to get your thoughts on this first because I feel like you mention this game once a month. So what was your reaction to seeing this remaster?
I was about ready to have some drinks for this game because that was such a great news headline. Like, at first I was like, that's awesome, it's Nintendo. And then it was like, oh no, it's PlayStation. And it just kept escalating. And then like a couple hours later, it was like, oh yeah, Xbox tweets it too. And I'm like, holy crap. And the fact, like, I was just stunned. I had two of my cousins call me in that day and my best friend call me. And then I have you guys messaging in the group chat, and like it's all over social media. And like people were just buzzing about it. Like Star Wars Battlefront was trending that day on Twitter. And it's, it's a 20-year-old game. So like, it was just so cool seeing like the fan excitement around that game. The facts, because at first my first thought too was like, wait, why am I going to pay $35 for games that are on the Xbox store for $5 a piece? And I look into it, and it's online play, so you can have 32 on 32 battles. So like, with that capability, we'll be able to like load up into a space mission, for example, and you'll have people that are in starfighters. You'll have people you'll have people that are inside the command ships, and the cool thing is, so like for example, Chris, like if you don't remember, like so with the original Battlefront 2, the way it worked was in the space missions, it's really cool. So you have the dogfight outside the ship, and then you can pinpoint and take out different parts of the ship, like the bridge, the engines, etc. But also, so for example, if you're playing as like the Empire, you'll load up and you'll have like your little ships, like your TIE fighter, your TIE bomber, your TIE interceptor, and then you'll have a Lambda class shuttle, and you can load up 6 or 8 people into the shuttle. Wow. And you can literally go in and land inside the Rebel, like the big Rebel cruisers. You can land in the docking bay, and then you can unload your ship, and you can literally get out and go inside the Rebel cruiser and go like inside, like literally inside to the innards of the ship, and like you can go down to the engine room, take out the engines in the ship, like take out the shield generator, all this stuff, and then get back into your ship and leave. And like, there's so much like in-depth things like that for the game, even though it's a 20-year-old game. So like, that's going to be a blast, like being able to like play those modes with people now, or like even like some of the basic modes, like, you have your hunt modes, like where you hunt Tuskens or whatever. You have like your basic, because the Tusken mode's fun because it's Jawas versus Tuskens. So like you have that, but like, there's so many different modes on there. And like I said, the fact that they're bringing it back online is amazing, because it's like, look, I mean, it's just crazy to begin with that they're bringing it back online for Battlefront 1 as well. That was a big shocker for me, because I figured it would just be Battlefront 2, and then you look into it and it's like, no, it's Battlefront 1 as well. And like, there's a lot of good charm about the first game as well that's not even in the second game. So like, you have those type of things. But I think the main thing for me as well with this like random drop, it makes me wonder, in the background, if one of those studios have a Battlefront 3 in development. Because like, you go and like hype up this release of this game and all this stuff, and like, who knows, like what, later this summer or fall or something, are we going to get an announcement at the gaming awards or whatever this winner is being like, hey, Star Wars Battlefront 3 in development, blah 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 or something. Like it just makes me wonder if this is kind of like that, because it's like, why would you go and even mess with a 20-year-old game?
Yeah, there's a lot of implications that could possibly be happening here. I mean, this could be, like you said, a way for Lucasfilm Games to put out feelers to be like, if people buy this game in droves,
I
this
bought it
old
already.
game-
I bought it. I
Yeah.
pre-ordered it. It's 56 gigabytes. It's a big game.
Exactly. I mean, it's the thing is, in this case, it's like vote with your wallet, right? If they see that this thing sells like 5 million copies, it's like, okay, maybe we should actually get a team to make another Star Wars like Battlefront game the right way this time, without crappy predatory microtransactions and nonsense like that. So there's very much a possibility of that happening, because the first thing that happened when I seen this get announced is so many people saying bring back Battlefront, like a new game, like, or bring back the old Battlefront 2 2017, add content to that. Obviously that team has moved on. Half those people at DICE don't even work there anymore, so they're gonna have to spin up a new team. Just get the Call of Duty guys, to start making it. Xbox owns Activision now. Just get the Activision guys to start making it and put it multi-plat. I don't know what you could do, but I mean, Milton, throwing it over to you. We're always talking classic games. I know Battlefront 2 is definitely one of those kind of games. So what's your reactions to this announcement?
It's the smartest thing that they can do. Like, I look, and I'm going to come out and just say it. There's not one disappointed person who was not excited about this announcement. Legit, I didn't hear about this until later in the day because I was working. I think the first time I heard it was from you guys. You like tagged me in it. And I looked at it quickly. I was like, oh, okay, they're bringing it back. Cool. And then I'm driving home that day. My brother's like, did you see the announcement about Battlefront? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, the compatibility. Now, I missed that part in the original message. And I was like, oh, they're bringing it back for all platforms. And I'm like, and that's the smartest thing they can do, because, one, we still love that game. When I say we, people who are in their 30s and 40s who grew up with that game, hell, probably guys in their 50s who grew up with that game, it still keeps up till this day on PS2 or whatever system you got it for. That's how great it is. Now imagine putting it on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, 360 with modern technology. We've been saying this forever. Go back to the old games and modernize them and put them on a system. We'll buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how we said that?
You said, Milton, you've had so many rants on this podcast the past few years of us doing this show, talking about bring back some of these old games and people will pay for it. And look, I mean, literally the day it drops, I spent $35 on the game. Like,
yeah. And I haven't paid for it yet. Again, I'm going to, because I want to get a PS5. And this is what's been so hyped the last week and a half, is that we got the official announcement of college football finally.
Oh yeah.
We're getting Battlefront. It's like, bro, this is a 90s kid, 80s kid, dream, bro. Like, you're giving us all these old games we love. Hell,
Yep.
Bring back Mega Man at this point and put it on PS5 or Xbox. I'm all about.
Oh yeah, I'm about having a nostalgia meltdown this week.
You want to make Super Star Wars and make that more modernized? I'd pay for that easily, because I don't like the new stuff, because it doesn't land with me. The story isn't great in most of these new games. The old LucasArts games were fire, and a lot of it was their storytelling, and it kept you engaged. And the biggest thing, it was very replayable, and you never got tired of it. I don't know anybody who's complaining about the original Battlefront 1 and 2 and saying, hate that game, hate playing it. Man, people are still hunting for that game, and it's 2024.
Yeah, well, Milton, like, one of the best parts of that game, I'm sure you're going to do it, like, soon as it comes out, too. Like, of course, like, the online play, but, like, we'll be able to potentially do, like, co-op and play the campaign, like the Rise of the Empire campaign, where you go from the Battle of Geonosis clear to the Battle of Endor as a clone trooper, and it's literally Tamara Morrison, like, narrating as the clone trooper.
Right. What you know, they're going to bring him back to edit some stuff, make it more modernized, like maybe add dialogue, which would be dope. Again, smart move. They should do that. Again, EA and Lucasfilm, hire your boy. You know what I'm saying? I'll make this shit right. But, like, to me, it's a beautiful thing that Lucasfilm one, they're smart enough to say, look, we're going to monetize this. People are going to pay for it. Like that's the number one thing. But I think they have enough fan base out there that's saying, hey, this is what the fan base actually wants.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're going to be weird about it and demand more. I've been saying it, and you've said this. Star Wars fans aren't that hard to please.
No, it's I say it so often. I just said this to my cousin the other day when me and him were talking about like the state of Star Wars as a whole with movies and shows and like all the roller coaster rides we've had with Star Wars over the past 10 years now basically. Like Star Wars fans aren't that hard to please like when it comes to the movies and shows. Give us a solid B plus, A minus type story with some action and some solid actors, and people will like it. And then even with the video games, just give us a game with a solid story, good action mechanics, trigger some of the nostalgia stuff that people love, because no matter how much people complain on social media, and see, like, this is one thing I love just riffing on people about on social media, is like, people like go on social media and like dog on nostalgia, but then the first nostalgic thing they see, they freak out about. So it's like people are in denial that people can say it all they want, but like they love nostalgia. I mean, look, that's why so many people went and bought Battlefront, this past Wednesday. I mean, like literally, when you typed in Star Wars Battlefront on Wednesday, you could just keep refreshing and refreshing and refreshing and refreshing, and it's just all these good comments. And literally, Milton, like, my first thought was like, man, see, like, Milton's getting proven right again, because it's just all this good positive reinforcement about a 20-year-old game.
It made me laugh, Ben, because you had showed the screenshot of you purchasing the game, and I'm looking at the download. I'm like, why the hell is this 15-year-old game like over 50 gigabytes? I just
56.
What in the world?
That's the best way to do it. Like, if you're gonna bring back something classic like that, just give us the whole damn thing and modernize it and make it better. Because we're gonna give. Here's my money. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
It's like that. The best thing about nostalgia is, especially if it's good, is that people really do tie that to their good times as children. And then they can say, oh my God, if I have kids, I can share this with my children.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Because that's how games live on forever. Because how many times have we probably talked to our parents about games that they played when they were kids, and they might have shared with us that we might have liked, or shows that we might have liked that they really like growing up, and we keep watching them as we get older and older. That's how these things stay immortalized.
Well, Milton, like, personally with me, like lately, over the past few months since November, I've slowly, I mentioned it here on the podcast here and there, I've slowly been rewatching Arrow. I just finished up season 3 with Ra's al Ghul and all this stuff. And it's nostalgia for me because, like, Arrow was a fun show, and it was one of my most fun shows in the 2010s watching it. And, it is one of the reasons, like, I got into fitness and stuff to begin with. So, like, when you watch a show like Arrow, or you play like a game like Battlefront or whatever, like, you love that, like, that nostalgic hits and stuff. And, we have a really good time with it. I mean, look, like you opened the podcast talking about, like, playing old Star Wars games with your girlfriend and stuff. Like, so, like, people love that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, and to be clear, so this Battlefront Classic Collection, it's not a remake, it's a remaster. So they're not adding like new mechanics or anything. It's literally game preservation at its finest form, where it's like, okay, we have these new TVs that support 4K and widescreen. Back then, we didn't even have widescreen, so they're basically making it so it adapts to the TVs. What they are doing, the biggest overhaul, is they're adding new textures to the actual models and the environment. So it's like an overlay skin, if you will, on top of these characters, so they don't look like rough from like the early 2000s. Like, they're all smooth. They look, decently enough for 4K image and all that sort of thing. That's why the game is 50 gigabytes, because 4K is pretty heavy. Yeah.
Right. I guarantee you the game is still going to play fairly smooth.
Oh yeah.
Compared to 1000 and whatever it was. Like, they're going to add some things to make it more compatible, obviously, for the systems and in the modes that they're playing with. But I just feel like it's the smartest move, man. Like, it's just a smart move to sit there and say, okay, if Battlefront's a hit, as we know it probably will be, let's not go. Let's go back and do Force Unleashed 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Let's go Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, really.
Let's go to
Kenobi. We've been banging the table for Kenobi.
yeah. So let's right. Oh my god, if they give us that one, if they give us Kenobi off of Xbox, it's rap.
Well,
It's rap.
Look at this, guys. I mean, next week we have the Dark Forces remaster coming out, the original Star Wars FPS that came out on PC. That's supposedly now. Now I'm a little bit worried because I have not seen. You can't even buy the game yet, and when they officially announced it, said February 28th, which is next Thursday, and we cannot pre-order the game yet. So I'm waiting on bated breath, thinking, oh, they might have a last minute like delay or something with that game. But I mean, it seems like Lucasfilm, Milton, that's the way they're going. So it's just a matter of, okay, what's next after Dark Forces, after Battlefront? Maybe, Republic Commando. I think that's been decent to play. I know you could buy that on Switch now and everything, but who knows?
Probably do Jedi Outcast. They can probably do Rogue Squadron. They can probably do.
Oh yeah.
What's the pod racer one? Jedi Race. What's it? Racers or pod
Yeah,
racers?
they have that. Yep.
I mean, it's unlimited, bro. I mean, hell, if they want to redo Super Star Wars and Super Empire and Jedi, I'm buying it. I mean, bro, you got me locked in.
There you go.
See, you know what they just need to release? This is my pitch to them. Be like, yo, Lucasfilm, just give us this like $100 pack of all these remastered games, like a big bonus, like a big pack with like 20 games in it.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, they have something like that for Microsoft. They have the Rare Replay, which is literally like 30 Rare games in one big package. So, they could do that. So there you have it. Not news I expected to get when we have 3 big Star Wars episodes to talk about tonight. But Lucasfilm was feeling very generous this week. So we'll see throughout the tenure of the Bad Batch airing if we're going to get any more massive news like this to talk about alongside episode reviews. So we're going to get into our reviews for the premiere.
Also, I do want to throw out there for anybody wondering, that is March 14th when it comes out.
Yeah, literally like 3 weeks away. It's insane how closely they just announced it and they're dropping it. So yeah, get ready. And like Ben said, you can pre-order it now if that's something you like to do. So we're talking about the Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 1, Confined, Episode 2, Paths Unknown, and Episode 3, Shadows of Tantiss. I'm going to throw it over to you, Ben, for first thoughts. We're going to talk about these episodes, by the way, as like their one giant episode, because I feel like that's how you experience them. At least that's how I watched them 3 in a row. Not putting words to your mouths, guys, but that's how I watched them. So
okay, I was going to say, are we talking about them as a whole or just do 1, 2, 3?
Let's just talk about them as a whole. It's the premiere. Okay. Billed as the premiere. We'll just,
Okay, yeah. So for me overall, I think this premiere was very good. Like, it hit all the notes you wanted to hit. It gave me a major relief because I'm not kidding you. I went to bed Tuesday night and said to myself, all right, please, Lucasfilm, please let this be a good premiere because, we've had a roller coaster relationship with this show, so I didn't know what to expect from the beginning. So I was just like, please let it be good. And I see people, or I wake up and I watch the 3 episodes and then I see all this good positive reaction on social media and it's like, hallelujah. Like people had it well received. So like community seemed to like it. I really enjoyed it because I thought the first episode was done really well. It was a nice intro back into the series, back into Mount Tantiss. And then even the second episode with the Bad Batch crew and then the clones, also one of those clones was Daniel Logan. But you have, that little side episode was good because, see, this is the thing is in normal years past for Bad Batch, that type of an episode would be considered a filler, but it contributed to the story to progress the characters more toward finding Omega, etc., etc. So it just wasn't a throwaway episode, So I really liked that. And then, of course, the best episode, in my opinion, was the third one because you have Mount Tantiss, you have Omega, you have Crosshair, and then you have the whole mystery of Palpatine showing up. Like, what are they looking at Mount Tantiss? And like, I mentioned it going into the premiere last week. For so many of us hardcore Legends fans, they did something like we would have thought we would have never seen before. Like, I've been listening to these Legends books over the past year now, and like, we're literally seeing a live action, or not a live action, but an animated on-screen Mount Tantiss, and I would have never thought we would have seen that. And the cool thing is, like, they did it justice. Like, the descriptions kind of from like the OG books, it fits that description. Like Palpatine talks about like the abominations here at Mount Tantiss and things like that. And like, like that fits literally like Mara Jade in those OG books talks about, the abominations of Mount Tantiss. Like, you have that almost exact wording from the OG books, and then you have, like just that sort of thing, like being a Legends fan, getting this even played out in Bad Batch is cool. And like they even like have like just the environment set up well from those old books, like the dogs that are chasing Omega and Crosshair. I mean, that literally is pretty much the Bornskers from the original books that are chasing Luke and Mara through the Mount Tantiss woods.
No
like
way.
So it's like, yeah, so it's very, very, very similar. And like, so all of this external stuff combined with what we see on screen just made this premiere perfect. As being like such a big Star Wars fan that I am, such a big Legends fan that I am, it just was like a perfect storm. And then you have the Battlefront news on top of all this stuff. So it was like, to me, like Wednesday was such a great day for Star Wars. And like this premiere just really topped it off like perfectly, like, because I just had no issues with it. It was just a really good time. And, I'm sure Milton will talk about this, but man, Ian McDermott killed it as Palpatine, as always.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my overall intro thoughts.
Milton, floor is yours, man.
Okay. Overall, I liked the first episode really, 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 really much. I really enjoyed that first episode. Episode 3, great. The best episode of the premiere, without any question. Episode 2, I'm up and down about this one. And I agree with your points, Ben. I see what they were trying to do with it, and I'm sure it's going to tie into something later down the road, which we know it should because it's final season. I know how episodes should try to bring an audience up and down, but I'm like, man, the way episode 1 ended, it's like, just keep building that momentum, which I kind of felt they did that in episode 3, but episode 2 wasn't a filler, but it had filler aspects. Like, very boring to me, but I understood why it was there. Again, I have to go back and probably rewatch it. That kind of was not invested in that episode as much. However, it wasn't trash. Let's be clear. Overall, as a premiere for 3 episodes, it was a consistent premiere. I think it did its job to get us ready for the season. I had issues with episode 2, but it wasn't trash. And of course, my man Palpy, he comes back. I can listen to Ian McDermott talk like Palpatine all day and would have no issues with it, because the way he looks in this particular show, he looks so good as Palpatine. Like, give me a Palpatine miniseries at this point. Like, what is he doing when he's not plotting and scheming? Which he's plotting and scheming all the time. But it's like, I want to see what he's doing when he's just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, does he got a girl he's talking to on the side? Is he
well, Milton, according to Ian McDermott himself this past week, he said the Emperor does get intimate with people.
I'm sure he does. You know
yeah, he did say that.
I'm sure he does, and I'm sure he likes chicken wings. So I'm just saying, drink chicken. You eat chicken wings, bro. Do you drink beer? But I'm just being silly. But for real, like, overall, like, Palpatine is that dude. And honestly, that scientist, what's his name again?
Hemlock.
Dr. Hemlock.
Dude, he's an asshole, but I like him. I don't know why. Like,
I wish we had more of him last season. Like, he's a great character.
Such a fascinating character. And it's like, my God, like, how did they create this character? And I hope we get to see him more throughout the season. And I kind of hope he survives this show, because I feel like he's that important to Palpatine's overall plan. Obviously, which leads into Snoke. But yeah, dude, that character is fire. Palpatine's dope. This made me like Omega even more, which is crazy I'm saying that, because I never was a huge fan of her, but I like her more in these particular episodes she was in.
Oh yeah.
Well, Milton, just to throw out there too for our listeners, even I'm not sure if you guys saw D. Bradley Baker talking about the show this past week, but he actually talked about how, when he was talking with like Brad Rao and the people like obviously behind the scenes that work on the show, that the concept for like the Bad Batch is actually like Lucas's final George Lucas's final kind of project, kind of for Lucasfilm. Obviously, he's not involved with it, but the concept of the Bad Batch he was talking about is like a carryover from the Lucas era. Like Lucas had this kind of concept in mind, like a Bad Batch crew for the Clone Wars, and then obviously like they sold to Disney, whatever. So like they never got to it. So like Baker was literally talking about it in an interview. I think it was with Collider, or it was with one of the bigger outlets. He talked about how it was like one of the final carryovers from like the Lucas era, which like that's really cool, just seeing like them continue one of Lucas's ideas into animation like this.
Oh yeah, it's the legacy of Lucas that is just Clone Wars. These characters spun out of Clone Wars, so it is cool looking at it from that perspective, to see the longevity of what his plans were. Like literally 10 years ago, he was selling off the company 10 years ago. It's crazy. Well, actually, no, sorry, 12 years ago almost. Now it was
Yeah.
2012. Um, as far as for me, I'll say the biggest thing I can take away from these 3 episodes is overall tone of the feeling of these episodes, the weight of it all, the weight of that first sequence in episode 1, when you have just this crash ship going there and they're not sure what the heck is going on. These guys are getting picked off, and then the surveillance team and Tantis is like, they're a lost cause. We're never going to send men out for them. They're done. So they're already built, like the way that they build it kind of reminds me of Jurassic Park, right? It's like the Velociraptor killing one of the guys that's handling, like very dark at night, and it leads to, oh my gosh, Tantis is this very dangerous location. We got a hint of it in prior seasons, but we are going full fledged. This is a character in its own right. I love the location. I love seeing this indigenous creatures that live there. And even like the whole thing with just the build up, first and foremost, the music setting all that feeling of, oh crap, this is an evil place. This is a very evil place, and some of our favorite characters are stuck there. The next
Mhm.
thing I had to say, I commended with this, is the pacing, especially of this first episode. This is not your usual fare when it comes to animated, especially with Star Wars. It's very uppity usually, a lot of blasters going off, very colorful. This is like the polar opposite. You have a lot of very slow scenes, and I really appreciated that for the creative team to have the trust in the audience to be like, these guys will stick with us with this episode. It's the third season, final season. We earned their trust at this point. Sure, we've had setbacks, but just trust us, guys. This is going to get good. And the whole idea of Omega kind of going through like a Groundhog Day-esque arc where it's like every day is the same, every day is the same. And they cut back at the one point. She's got the longer hair, those more tick marks on the wall. It's like, I love seeing the passage of time for her captivity and this whole relationship with her and Emery Carr of like, is she really on her side? She's taking her doll away, but they're giving it away at the end. It's like it's very interesting because that character has a lot of potential. I feel like it's just like her sister as a clone. And then the stuff with Crosshair is fantastic too. Just seeing how she's not giving up on him, even though like he tried to kill her and all this crazy stuff. Like when it comes down to it, she's one of them, he's one of her, and it's like they're all in this together, trying to get out of this crazy place that's just torturing everybody. And her relationship with Nalse, her relationship with this little creature named Batcher, like or whatever. It's like there's a lot going on in that episode, but when you look at it, it's like, well, not much really happened. But it's just, again, I agree with Milton. I've never really been a fan of Omega, and to see how this characterization has really
Mhm.
gone a lot more with these couple episodes, it's really got me on board with her. And Yeah, I can see what you're saying, Milton, about that second episode. It's just like, okay, I think it's more or less to be like for the audience to be like, hey, don't forget about these guys. Don't forget that this is called the Bad Batch. It's not called Omega. We have our other heroes over here doing this mission. This is what they're trying to do in the meantime. So yeah, it might have not been the best placement, but I don't know if it really could have done a better job. It's just like, good thing it was in a 3 episode arc, because if this episode came out on its own, I could definitely see a lot of people critiquing it like, oh, we got this episode, it's not as good as the others or something. But so it's a good thing they put them all together. And yeah, we'll spend a lot of time talking about that 3rd episode, because there's so much to dive in with all that crazy force sorcery and alchemy and all this crazy stuff that I just love about Star Wars. But yeah, that's my first salvo. I really did enjoy, and I feel like they nailed it for the first openers of this season.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said about the premiere. Again, it's a good start. I'm hopeful that this particular season will be consistent. We have what, 12 more episodes left or something like that. So
yeah,
I'm hoping Dave and his crew, or no, he's not even the lead director this year. Who's the supervisor director? Some chick, I forget her name. But
oh no, don't leave me hanging on this, man. Don't leave me hanging on this. Brad Rao and Jessica Corbett.
And yeah,
Jessica Corbett.
I mean, Dave's obviously, his handprints are all on this, but I'm hoping that we are consistent this season, because I think you don't want to lose momentum for a final season like this. We really want to flesh out, okay, what will happen with these clones? We don't see them in the continuity of the movies. We don't see them, mentioned down the road. So it's like, okay, either they die or they go somewhere or something happens to them. I'm now curious about Omega, because now that we know that the M count, she carries it. What does that look like? What does that look like for Palpatine? How does Palpatine stay invested to try to get this girl? Because damn well he needs her, and he's not going to let her go. Even though the doctor's like, hey, let her go. We'll find her. I got all the resources. Palpatine's going to be keeping his eye on this particular issue very closely. So I'm curious to see how they're going to use Palpatine this season, because it would make sense if he's around a little bit more, because this is his crown jewel of a project. He even says it. This will secure the Empire. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think Palpatine checks back in with Hemlock at least twice. I think it's going to be maybe somewhere in the middle and then the end of the season. Just because it's like you said, Milton, this is like the crown jewel of the Empire for the project, and then it's so important because of the implications of what they're testing. It's not just like a weapon or anything. They're literally testing the M count, doing the whole clone body stuff, pretty much that sort of angle. So it just makes you wonder also what they're doing, because like Palpatine obviously is looking at something, when he's in the vault. So the thing is, is he looking at a Snoke? Is he looking at a his weird clone of himself that's his son? Because the thing is, timeline wise, if a clone would perceivably grow at a normal human age or something, from here, from where this is, because this is only shortly after episode 3, I believe. So this would be enough time for the clone to grow and have Rey by the time they would have Rey. So maybe this is the beginning of the Palpatine clone, and they're doing these type of tests or something. But yeah, it's a really fascinating thing with all this Palpatine stuff, because there's so many big implications, and it's nice, say what you want about the sequels, it's nice there, okay, don't get me wrong, the Bad Batch has been it has its good moments and bad moments and whatever in between, but the show is doing good, because I tip my hat to Lucasfilm on this whole thing with the Emperor and stuff, because this is also them acknowledging yo, we kind of messed up with some of the stuff we planned in the sequels, so we're just gonna kind of backtrack it and try to build it out as best we can. You've seen that stuff in the comics and books and stuff, Chris, because you're really follow that stuff way more than myself. But you see that in the comics and books. You see that now in this show, and like, you know, they're kind of like laying the groundwork at least to make the sequels a little bit better and more valuable than where they were. Which, hey, hats off to them for like acknowledging that. So I really like that they're, you know, going in that direction. And this whole Palpatine thing is going to be interesting because by the end of it, you know, it's like, are they going to get like an Omega test, or are they going to get to a point where Palpatine maybe checks back in and goes, you know, screw it with that girl, like we'll just figure out the cloning thing ourselves, blah, 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 or we'll find another force sensitive, blah, 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 like something like that, or whatever. Like it just, I think there's a lot of things that can get answered or like get kind of put on the table now that you have Palpatine as potentially a main player in this final season.
Yeah, I was shocked. I'll be honest that they introduced Palpatine in the first couple episodes. I was hoping for like at least like a mid-season, but definitely by the end. But you know what you're saying, Ben, it leads some credence to like, okay, if they invited him in on this couple episodes, maybe we'll see him again. As you said, this is an important part of the process. Now, I was looking this up because I can't remember every canon name, guys, but Dathan is the Strandcast son of Palpatine, and Dathan actually was in the Shadows of the Sith book, and he was around during like the original trilogy, like following the footsteps of Vader when Vader was on Exegol with Ochia Bestoon and stuff like that during Empire Strikes Back era. So it would make a lot of sense if, oh my gosh, can you imagine if like they pan back and it's actually his son that's like being grown as a clone of him or something like that? That would be wild. But the thing is that we're missing that series, that animated series that helps to flesh out the sequel trilogy. We got that with the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars have strengthened up the prequels, and that's why you're seeing the prequels as more popular than ever right now with the fan base, because that's why we're getting like the May the 4th viewing of Phantom Menace and all these celebration of the prequels. It wasn't that way when the prequels first came out. I'll tell you that right now. It's because of the Clone Wars and Filoni and George Lucas to really like strengthen the character of Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme, and the politics that was happening behind the lines. So yeah, it's kind of weird how they haven't had a sequel trilogy version of that with the animated series, but it's cool to see that elements to strengthen that are happening as far back in this like just post prequel era show called The Bad Batch.
Well, Chris, just think how fire this would be if we finish up The Bad Batch and they're like, hey guys, we're gonna like continue to, I mean, I guess they wouldn't say continue to fix the sequels, but but how great would it be, something Milton's been asking for? What if they announce like, hey, we're gonna do a Clone Wars-esque 5-season thing of Han, Luke, and Leia 10 years before the sequel trilogy, or 5 years before the sequel trilogy or something, and have, you know, a young Kylo Ren or a young Ben Skywalker, you know, and do that sort of thing. Like, fans would respond so well to that. And you know, the good thing is, I remember this point, and I'll never forget it, like Christian Harloff bringing this up years ago. Like, when it comes to Luke, the good thing is, like, when you have his fall from where Luke is, like, Luke acknowledges in the sequel trilogy that, you know, like, the whole, like, legend of Luke Skywalker, like, Luke the big Jedi of the galaxy, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, the way you can build up to that is you could literally just do, like, an animated show, like the Clone Wars, like you mentioned, Chris, and literally have Luke be the badass Luke we want. Because the thing is, like Harloff mentioned in his point he talked about years ago, the way you do it is you build Luke up to this awesome hero, and, you know, eventually they have to knock him off the perch, but the thing is, you build up his, like, Jedi arrogance, and the thing is, that, like, Jedi arrogance and that sort of stuff is what the fans want, you know? Like, that's what people want. They wanted to see Luke like how he is in The Mandalorian. Like, obviously, Luke is, like, confident in Mando. I mean, look, you see how he, you know, kind of, like, flamboyantly, you know, like, he crushes the Dark Troopers and all this stuff. Like, you know, just how he does it, you know, it's just he's flexing his power. So why not just give us that in an animated type thing like the Clone Wars? Like, I think, you know, they're really laying the groundwork for potential for something like that because, you know, like you mentioned, Chris, you have this stuff, they're tying in with the Rise of Skywalker and the sequels. Like, you know, what's next? Like, is it a Clone Wars-esque thing? So I think that's another thing, like, that people might be overlooking with this premiere, is this could be laying the groundwork for future kind of, like, quote unquote, like, sequel fixing shows that people would enjoy.
Yeah. Hey, Milton. So, what are your thoughts on this Omega reveal? You mentioned yourself how they didn't shoot down her and Crosshair because of the M count, because that could be the piece of the puzzle that Nalase was being an ally on her side. It'd be like she knew that this would be an issue. She kept discarding this sample of her blood. Where do we go from here? Do we think that Omega is evidently force sensitive? Do you think that the plot line, could go forward with her, somehow finding somebody, let's say like an Asajj Ventress, to tell her more about what this could mean for her? Are we seeing our first clone that could possibly harness the force in some way, small or big? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Look, we all know the force isn't just predicated off of just a certain type of people. Anyone, as we've been told, anyone's capable of using the force. I mean, it connects us, it binds us, it brings the galaxy together. We've been told that since day one.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a clone or someone who was born naturally, you have the ability to tap into your metachlorian count. I think this is where Asajj Ventress could come into play, especially when if Omega starts showing her force potential. Like, let's say she starts tapping into her feelings or moving things with her mind, like Rey was in the movies. If she starts doing that, that can probably scare her and be like, okay, what is this? I don't understand this. I need to find a teacher, or I need to find someone who understands this. And then boom, Venture pops up. She's like, oh my God. And you know how very naive she is, Omega. She's going to think, oh, this person can teach me. So that's a possibility. This also makes me think of Grogu in the sense of, okay, something must have happened to Omega to make Grogu that important of a character, because clearly the Empire needed him for this particular project also. So my thing
That's
is,
a good point.
Yeah.
So does Omega, again, I'm just speculating, does she get away eventually? Do they capture her? Do they test her? Does she die because of what happens? And then obviously what leads up to making Grogu that priority to the Empire, because again, he was part of this project as well, as we saw in season 2, I think, of Mando.
Yeah.
So you just like you said, Ben, earlier about connecting this with the sequels and everything. This is perfect because now we connect it not only to the sequels, we're connecting this to Mandalorian, which is obviously 30 or 20 some years later down the road. So, or no, actually almost 40 some years later down the road. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I don't know. It's pretty dope. I hope we get something. I'm just curious to see how they're going to explain this season and how it's all going to play out. Because I honestly don't want to know what happens. Like, I don't want to pay attention to spoilers. I'm excited that she's potentially force sensitive. I don't want her to be a Jedi per se, but I'm glad to see that, okay, this is why she's now important. Now, from episode 1 of season 1, we now see, okay, this is why she was that valuable from day one.
Right. We've been getting the notion that maybe she did have some kind of extra capabilities, right? Like you look at Clone Force 99, every single one of those guys has a unique trait, and she's just like a young girl, right? It's like, well, what's her deal? Well, she's kind of cut from the same cloth as these guys, but why hasn't anything presented itself yet? And this is season 3 of a final season. Is it little too late? Too little, too late for like, oh, they're gonna start exploring this concept with only 12 episodes left. That's what worries me. Is like, but then again, that's what excites me because let's say this is just the tip of the iceberg, and that's where a future series could be placed with her, maybe a couple of years down the road, still in the dark times, but more of a focus on surviving Jedi that can be in part of a group called, let's say, the Path from Obi-Wan with Quinlan Vos and Asajj Ventress kind of shepherding her around. Maybe Cal Kestis shows up in that timeline. I'm just kind of speculating irresponsibly at this point, but I mean that's where my head was. Is like, okay, this is getting introduced now. We're definitely not going to get enough resolution because they still have to deal with all the other stuff with the clones in general to really focus too much on her. Because remember, this is, when it comes down to it, an ensemble. It's not just one character. It's an ensemble story. So they don't have as much time to focus on this significant thing. I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah, Ben, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this particular thing with Omega, how you felt with this reveal and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought excuse me, the reveal was significant just because, like you said, it opens up the door for, okay, so you have the potential for the Force, because the thing is, if you think about it this way, so Omega, like in my opinion, I think if she does have the Force, it's not because of the past seasons. I think it's directly because of the M count injection. Because, like if you think about it this way, the reason like they're doing the testing, like let's just say that is Dathan or another clone or whatever. The reason they're doing the testing is because they're testing to see if they're viable to like pretty much access, like to be able to have enough midichlorians to access the Force. Like if Palpatine's spirit would transfer over there, they would want to make sure the midichlorians would work, or you just have Palpatine in a human body. So the thing is, to me, like for one, it's like, all right, where are we getting the M count injections from? You presume they're probably from Palpatine, because like, why else who else's blood would they be testing? So I think it would be Palpatine's blood like injecting into Omega, and I think, like I said, it's kind of like testing to see if, because she is a clone, so it's kind of testing to see if the clone can survive getting injected with, say Palpatine's level of midichlorians. Like, the famous thing from George was like, Vader, if he would have been fully healthy, he would have been twice as powerful as Palpatine. But, when he's cut up, Vader's like 80% of Palpatine. So Palpatine's strong, obviously, in the Force. So it would kind of presume you to believe maybe eventually later in this season, since Omega pretty much got, I guess, injected with the ability to access the Force potentially, maybe we'll see her access the Force maybe in like the finale, or like the the lead up to the finale, or something like the final 2-3 episodes. But I think it's potentially more something like that, where it's like, you're getting injected with something to help you access that ability, because like that's the point of this whole cloning thing, is to see if the clones can survive it. So I think it's going to be more kind of along those lines, where if she accesses the Force, I think it's going to be late in this season, like episode 13, 14, 15, like that type of range.
Yeah, it's I'm not quite sure it's clear enough to me how they're doing this experiment. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot more clarity on what the heck. I mean, we're definitely getting the clarity. Right now, we're speculating, right? We're like, oh my gosh, who's the guy on the other side of the curtain? What's this? What's that? And that's so much fun as a Star Wars fan. I mean, I speak for myself with like, I live for the theories and stuff like this. This is always so much fun. One of the reasons why I love Game of Thrones back in the day is just like, hey, we're theorizing what's gonna happen with this character, what's going on here, and I'm getting that from my Star Wars, which is a great thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I kind of wanted to start wrapping up this discussion. We'll finish it off as we always do, giving our final thoughts and our score out of 10. I'm going to throw it over to Milton first.
Yeah, so I think this premiere did its job in setting up what the season could be. Obviously, it's the final season, so my hope is that it's a consistent season where we get little to no filler. But also, if we do get those, I want to say down episodes, there's more those episodes where it brings the audience down to reset for the next particular storyline. I'm okay with that, as long as it's consistent and it keeps me invested. Overall, I thought this premiere was solid. It's definitely pointing into the right direction. I love seeing Omega. I feel like the way they have her character this season, you get to see how much of the Bad Batch has really influenced her mindset. She's always now pushing forward. She really doesn't get down per se. She's always trying to find a way to escape. She cares for her people. She cares for her brothers. It's nice to see that they made her consistent and that she's learned a lot from her brothers. So overall, thought this was a good premiere. Love the music. Love the action. Love the way the show overall looked. I mean, I think they've upgraded this particular season very much. I mean, in little ways you can tell, but it looks great. I never can complain about the animation. So overall, to score this out of 10, I say this is a solid 8.75.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the visuals, Milton. I agree with you. Like, sometimes crazy maybe for me to say is like I kind of forget what medium I'm watching. I just realize I'm watching a really good Star Wars story, whether it be live
Hmm.
action or animation. The barrier has come down. I'm so invested in the characters, the dialogue, the voice acting. Michelle Ang, D. Bradley Baker, Ian McDermott. These guys. Sorry, I forget the name of the voice actor for Hemlock. But these guys are elevating this medium when it comes to just the performances. I feel like the animation with the facial performances also really helps with the extra bit of detail. So yeah, I definitely wanted to. Thanks for bringing that up because I almost forgot. Obviously, we're watching something, but we have to talk about how good it
Right.
looks. You know.
Well, yeah, and you do bring up a good point about the voice acting, and I know it's funny. Let's say 15, 20 years ago, if we'd have been watching a cartoon show and reviewing it, people would have been like, "You guys are idiots. You're freaking nerds. You're losers. Blah blah blah," and you'd be like, "Wait a minute." Now, a lot of these animations are way better than live action stuff that's out on TV
Mm.
or streaming. So you can definitely tell creators make the intent to make these animated shows just as good as a live action. And the way they write them is like watching a live action. It's just animated. So I love it. I love that it can be consistent from one medium to the other, especially in Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As far as me, I really thought this was a strong star. I'll echo a lot with what Milton says. Yeah, I know we haven't seen Echo yet, but I'm waiting to see him, guys. I can't wait to see him and Rex. But aside from that, I thought this was a great way to start the season. And it does stuff different. As I said, it feels a lot more mature. It feels a lot darker. I'm really digging the tone. It's taking risk with the audience that is going to pay off with these slow starts, these somber kind of feelings of, yeah, exactly. This isn't for kids anymore. This is like an adult animated series. We didn't talk about the action. I feel like the action sequences of the breakout, right? Just the idea that Omega and Crosshair got out already in the first 3 episodes, that just leaves the door wide open for, wait, what the heck is going to happen on these next 12 episodes? I think we're going to come back to Exegol. And, just like Ben, you're saying, like, just so much potential with, okay, what is going to happen with the future of these characters? The clones, we don't see the clones anymore. This is the story of where we go with that. So, yeah, keep it short and simple. Really, really enjoyed it. Lots of great character moments, everything like that. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo a lot of both of your guys' points. Like for me, it was a really good premiere overall. Like the action, the storytelling. It was great seeing the fans give the Kiner brothers love because, like, I saw them. The Kiner brothers were really tweeting the other day. Like they were, they were tweeting how happy they were. Fans enjoyed, their music in the first few episodes because they were like, I saw the Kiner brothers were literally trending on Twitter for a little bit there on Wednesday morning, and so it was cool getting to see them. It was cool getting to see like them, the music getting acknowledged like that, and of course, like you guys mentioned, the visuals look really good. The implications for the overall story, whether it be like in season for this show or even like the wider scope of the galaxy, you have those sorts of things. And then even like I mentioned, if you're a Legends fan, you can appreciate this because it's like, hey, we would have never thought we would have seen Mount Tantiss be on screen before. So, it's just a lot of good built up, I think, with this series or with this opening to the season so far. So for me, I would give it a 8.8. And also to note, so when it comes to this show, I believe the next two-part episode is 6 and 7, I believe. So basically, like my view on some of these episodes coming up, it's like, it's like kind of like your sports analogy, Milton. It's like, okay, we got 2 episodes until the next two-parter. So we know the two-parter is probably going to be really good. We know that for most likely. That's like a 90% shot. So basically, we just got to get through these next 2 weeks. Like, we got to go 1-1, ideally 2-0, but like we got to at least have one good and one medium minimum. So like that's all I'm asking for out of the Bad Batch is like just give me ideally 2 good episodes the next 2 weeks, at least one of 2 good episodes. So like I'm pretty optimistic based on the opening premiere. Like I think there's a chance we'll be able to get 2 really good episodes back to back, and at minimum we'll probably get one. So it's good to know we have kind of milestones built in where these multi-part episodes are laying. Like we can just be like, okay, got to get through the 2 weeks and see what happens.
Oh man, I have strong confidence these single episode weeks are going to
Yep.
be just as insightful, hopefully, as this episode was. We actually have a score in the chat. Skywalker's Academy is giving us a 966,503 out of 10. Is the overall score for the Bad Batch. So there we go. We got a very happy camper with Skywalker's Academy. Yeah. So it's been a great discussion here for the evening, and you guys can expect this every single week going forward. Except we'll be taking a week off towards the end of March because I'll be at a convention. But then we'll just double back and we'll do a double episode review or whatever it is the next week. But other than that, yeah, you guys can catch us here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching along in the live stream. And like I said off the top, you can always watch or listen to this after the fact. Just look up Outer Rim Transmission on YouTube and on any podcast app of your choice. We're going to throw it over to Milton. You can plug your stuff, Milton.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X at Milton Weber 7 or Instagram at Milton 7 Weber. Just hopefully it's a good week this week. Looking forward to obviously the next episode of Bad Batch, but hopefully just a good chill week during the work week because adulting's overrated. But hopefully it's a chill week, and I think this is the second full week without football right now, so that kind of sucks. But
Sad times.
Yeah, but the draft is going to be here in a couple months, so I'm looking forward to get back into the football groove, and obviously the spring and summer getting here. So, yeah, hopefully everyone's healthy, and you guys are enjoying the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, as kids, we're always like, oh, let's hurry up and grow up. Like, I can't wait to be an adult so I don't have to follow my parents' rules all the time and I can do what I want. And we realize, oh, it's not all cracked up to be when you actually reach adulthood. So there you have it. Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, I can echo those points, and yeah, for anybody wanting to chat about the NFL or actually not really the NFL because that's not happening for a while, like Milton said. But you can find me on X at Real Ben Maynard, talking mostly Star Wars right now, Star Wars and Avatar, and some of this, fun nerd pop culture stuff to talk about. And then you can find me on Instagram as well at Real Ben Maynard. I'm just getting back into a good groove on my diet and fitness and stuff, and hit a 15-pound down marker, so it's good. Still got a ways to go, but I'm just chipping away at it, and it's just good to be in a nice good groove of things. So I'm excited to get back into working out tomorrow. Excited.
All right, yeah, it's good to have you back up to full capacity here, Ben. Out of the weather for a few days, but you still managed to come in here and do the podcast. So you're a trooper. We appreciate you for doing that. As far as me, you guys could find me in a couple of different places. You can find me, of course, right here on the YouTube channel. If you're already watching and you haven't subscribed, why haven't you subscribed yet? Go ahead, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff on YouTube that everybody tells you to do. That way, you'll know when we go live, which is every Sunday again at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on the podcast. Earlier in the week, I actually put up kind of a little, I got into my little groove of doing those little companion videos once again to Star Wars content. So I have like a big video about, oh my gosh, my first reaction to finally confirmation of her maybe being Force sensitive. So I got that on the channel you can check out. As I alluded to off the top of the show, me and Matthew Neugebauer sit down every Wednesday night over on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel for our Tractor Beam live show, where we go over every week's comics in more depth and detail there. So check that out. And I am currently working on my next little blog post over on starrapter.substack.com. I hope to have that out this upcoming week. And yeah, very much looking forward to the talk next week. But for everybody in the chat, for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter, this was Outer Rim Transmission, episode 142. Be safe, be well. Hope everybody have a good week, and may the Force be with you always in transmission.